What's up, everybody? Sorry for the delayed start today and some of the technical difficulties. My name is Malachi. I'm here with Mike. We're part of NFT Culture, and we're trying out some new things today. I'm going to start hopefully providing a little bit more regular updates, either daily or every other day. Is the news within the Nifty community is moving incredibly fast. Today's been an interesting day. With a lot of the copyright and counterfeit NFT discussions and some of the other things that we're seeing, as well as the market bouncing back and a lot of money moving around very quickly in terms of fiat-based NFTs like Nifty Gateway and Ethereum-based NFTs, and where people can see value. So, Mike, I'll toss it over to you. What's exciting you today?
Well, basically just trying to go through and find the good deals. That's kind of what I'm excited for right now. One of the things that's really been kind of messing with the market in the last couple of weeks has just been the crazy high Ethereum gas prices. They've been going up and down, of course, but they're definitely, at least from what I've seen, lower than they've been right now. Like for a fast transaction, you can get by with a price in Gwei of like 73, which is double digits, which hasn't really been like a middle of the day sort of sustained thing that we've seen in a while. So when the gas prices are down, and not only are the gas prices lower in ETH, but of course ETH is down by 50%. So you got lower Gwei price, plus you have lower ETH price. So at the end of the day, you're talking about maybe $200 Nifty transactions, or maybe even less, compared to where we were at getting close to $700 transactions for some Nifties. So I think that just really opens the door for a lot of really good value opportunities. So like I've been trying to revisit a lot of the big projects that have dropped recently, like Meebits and Apes, and some of the new ones coming up, even looking at VFriends again to see if maybe there's some better deals out there. What have you been seeing as far as collecting of new pieces?
Yeah, sorry, I was just trying to put the link to this in some of the Discords because we had those challenges. It's really interesting. I think for me in particular, I'm excited that the Ape project, I'm a big fan of the apes. The floor on the apes has stayed pretty consistent, even when people think about what is the future value of Ethereum and those types of things. I think we're 3 or 4 apes away from the floor being like 0.39 ETH. So the floor is just gradually increasing. It's also interesting to see that there's more owners of the Ape project, or the Bored Ape Yacht Club. Over 3,000 owners now. It's moved over 4,000 Ethereum. So when you look at the health of that project, it's pretty exciting to see, and I like that. What's really interesting is I was putting out some pretty aggressive global offers to the dismay of my better half. And in the last week, you picked up a Mad Dog Jones. That might have been a little bit over a week. I picked up an X copy, an F render, a Too Much Lag, and then about an hour and a half ago, I got a Ferocious Victor and Victoria for 888. And then we started seeing some Uniswap by Slam Sunday moving. We saw other Mad Dog Jones pieces starting to move. What's really interesting to me is one of the whales that we interact with quite a bit, awesome fella, was trying to figure out, if the floor of Ethereum is really around this 2,000, and thank goodness, because I was scared yesterday. But one of the things that's really exciting to see is that this, if the floor holds, and it looks like it did, we're bouncing back. There's a lot of value right now in Ethereum, and if you think about the fiat-based kind of Nifty Gateway pieces that have been flat for months, right? They've been pretty agnostic to the market movement. It's really interesting to see, there's some speculation to say, could you sell a Beeple for 300, or excuse me, like 30,000 or 50,000, and if that Beeple's likely going to be worth 30,000 and 50,000 in 3 months or 6 months, and you think the price of ETH is going to go up 20, 30, 50%, you're willing to make that gamble. But the challenge that a lot of these collectors have is that if you sell it on Nifty Gateway, you get USDC essentially, and you can only move 25,000 a day into Gemini, and then you have to convert it automatically into Ethereum. So if you're buying it on Nifty Gateway and you move it over to OpenSea and then you sell it on OpenSea, you either get wrapped ETH or Ethereum. And so you lose some of those transaction issues that a lot of people have. So there's a lot of collectors that have high dollar items that are coming to us and trying to figure out how do we move, this type of stuff, thinking that the market's going to bounce back. Now this could be, a dead cat bounce, and it could be headed back down, but it's really interesting to see that dynamic moving so quickly.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. So like to finish throwing those numbers. If you can buy something on Nifty Gateway, for instance, for $30,000 and then sell it for maybe 20 ETH, maybe 15 to 20 ETH on OpenSea, that same 20 ETH would have been worth, 80K just a few months ago. So even though that those Beeples are kind of holding that $30 to $40,000 range, the ETH trends, you're getting more ETH for your money. So I think that's an interesting strategy. I will be curious to see if anybody pulls it off. But that being said, it's like there's a lot of signs. Like when the market was crashing, like a lot of people were getting scared. But there's a lot of these signs that kind of say like that was purely like a bunch of inexperienced people enter the market and a bunch of inexperienced people exit the market. The fundamentals all appear the same, if not better now. Like the fact that people are trying to look for schemes in order to accrue extra ETH, and the fact that a lot of these stats, like some of the stuff with the BTC thing that is driving away these weak-handed people, like for instance China saying that they're going to ban mining. If you really think about the BTC ecosystem long term, like them banning mining is maybe not a bad thing, because one of people's primary complaints against BTC, and I'm kind of going all over the place, so forgive me for that, but one of people's primary complaints against BTC was, oh, there's too much centralization because of the mining in China. Like China mines over 50% of BTC. That's too centralized. And now suddenly people are like, we're upset that China's banning mining. Well, obviously, the people who are upset are just people who only care purely about the price for the next 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, not actual BTC ecosystem people. So I think same for the whole Musk thing with him complaining about BTC's environmental impact, whether you agree with the environmental impact argument or not. The fact of the matter is, if Musk is trying to use his bully pulpit to cause BTC to try to improve its footprint, honestly, that's a good thing long term. The more people who try to say, hey, BTC is by almost by design a very stagnant technology platform. If someone's trying to at least guide that platform into a sustainable direction, that really is good long term. So all these weird things that have been crashing the price are kind of like confirmation of the fundamentals, or even showing the strength of the fundamentals of the crypto market. And so I think that's why it kind of trickles over to ETH, where you have these collectors just trying to figure out ways to use this downturn as an opportunity to add on to their piles of ETH, or even like me and you trying to find some good pieces at a relative steal. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I was just gonna agree with you. It's funny, like Elon Musk came out an hour ago and spoke with the North American Bitcoin miners. They're committed to publish current and planned renewable usage and to ask miners worldwide to do so. And then he immediately starts talking about Doge. And if you want to help develop on Doge, you could submit it to the GitHub. So it's part of me wanted to respond to him, but there's no point. It's just interesting to see how how he either accidentally or purposefully moves the market. So we'll keep an eye on it, but it's just an interesting time just to see all of the movement that's going on. And Mark Cuban was paraphrasing a classic quote years ago that has stuck with me. And chaos creates opportunity. And when you look at some of the leveraged accounts, when you look at that, a lot of the Ethereum moving to cold wallets, when you look at a lot of the stuff that may look like market manipulation, some of it objectively was. And when you look at, that more people have Bitcoin and Ethereum than ever before, and the Winklevoss twins are tweeting live right now that Bitcoin's testing 40K. It's interesting how quickly things have rebounded. So I think that's good for collectors. I think that the maturity of the market is really exciting. I just hope I hope people didn't lose too much, and I hope people didn't fear, uncertainty, and doubt sell thinking that the market was going to keep dropping. So it's been an interesting week.
Yeah, for sure. And looking at the weekly stats on Nifty apps, it's actually interesting because they've been kind of trending downward for the last who knows how many days. And today, actually, there's a pretty substantial uptick. So this is kind of one of the first times that I can recall where the 7-day average is actually moving in the positive direction. They're reporting increases in the number of sales on, and Nifty apps only looks at Nifty Gateway, so it's a little bit of a microcosm, but they're reporting increases in the stats on number of sales, distinct purchasers, and distinct sellers. And the distinct purchasers is increased by, they're reporting up by 15%, whereas distinct sellers is only increased by 1.5%. So it definitely seems like there are more people trying to hunt for these deals on Nifty Gateway. And that's kind of exactly what you would expect kind of in a falling market. As the price comes down, you would expect more buyers to enter that market and kind of act as a prop up the falling prices in the market. So, markets just behaving like markets do. But the good thing is, like, I think your point earlier that you made about, maybe 2000 was the floor of this whole thing. And that makes sense to me. I mean, it wasn't very long ago, like actually most of, 2021 really, where mentally people's conversion rates like was 2000 ETH, an ETH being 2000, about $1 to $2,000. So even my wife, when I kind of talk to her about stuff, she always asks me, hey, what's the ETH price? Or when I'm talking about something, a piece of artwork priced at like 1 ETH or 0.5 ETH or whatever, I just taught her to just use the mental conversion ratio of $2,000 for that. So I think it's kind of a place where people were intrinsically valuing ETH for most of the year. So it makes sense that we would have a lot of support there. This whole thing with $4,500 did feel pretty crazy, and a lot of people probably entered the market at that level and bought ETH to buy Meebits or to buy apes at $4,500 per ETH, and that's a bit of a steep price to pay for sure, considering where we're at the beginning of the year. But I think this definitely really shows that the longer term baseline value of ETH right now is probably at least 2,000.
Yeah, and for that, it's funny that a month ago, as you were alluding to, a month ago on April 25th, the price of Ethereum was 2,240 at one point. And when you look at the crazy run, a month is a long time. Everything that's happened, but just the fact that we're crawling back is pretty cool. One of the things that's also really interesting when you talked about NFT apps and some of the tools that are coming out for a lot of these analytics is Duncan was on their Discord today live talking. They do a weekly live feature enhancement, talk about bugs, talk about the market. What was really interesting is that they want to have basically like a resale auction. They didn't go into too much detail, but they were joking about doors and some of the other things. But the most interesting thing for me during that kind of live chat was that they talked about cryptoart.io, and the data section there is actually accurate. And so when they talk about how the data is being pulled from OpenSea and others and some of their proprietary stuff, he actually endorsed it, and he even talked about people that do scrape the Nifty Gateway website for analytics. And so he hinted that there's going to be more transparency in the near future. And so for anyone that's looking, no affiliation with us whatsoever, but if you're looking for the real data at any given time, you can definitely go to the crypto art data or cryptoart.io and take a look at it. Oh, someone was talking about the luchadors. That I picked one up for I think 0.09 ETH. It's another cool project that I was looking at, and this is the challenge that we're seeing right now with a lot of these projects. Is, do you want to invest in the project, or do you want to invest in ETH and keep that ETH? And so I think people need to be really wise in the short term in terms of what they're doing. I think it's a pretty cool project. Right now, the gas fees are pretty expensive, or they were when I was looking at it a few hours ago. I don't know. I haven't checked it in just a little bit, but that's definitely one of those fun projects. We've been eyeing it. Once again, no affiliation. I bought one of the luchadors just because I was born in the Southwest. I thought it was a cool project. One of the things that really got me excited about that project is it's 100% on contract, which I think is unique, that they had to do the entire graphics, all the movement and everything else under 24 kilobytes. So it's a pretty cool, it costs right now, it would cost 114 to mint a luchador, and the gas fee of that would be $61, so 50% in gas fees. So it's definitely a cool project. We're keeping an eye on it. I think it's one of those fun projects that, depending on the utility, when we think about, one of the things that I loved about the Bored Ape Yacht Club is the fact that you got access through the MetaMask to a private club and the bathroom that you could put graffiti on. And I think that in the near future, we're going to start seeing a lot more of the utility components around these types of things. And so that's an exciting thing for me to see. And Mike, your background is stronger in this type of stuff than mine. What are you seeing from some of the ideas from the utility, the Gary V's VeeFriends, but then also the Bored Ape Yacht Club? Where do you see this being exciting?
Well, utility is definitely, I think, a differentiator. So and I'm always going to kind of bring it back to the crypto roots, but you still see articles in the paper today about, BTC isn't really a real thing. It's just people's value. It's like gold. It has no, granted, gold has a small amount of industrial utility, but it's like gold. It's just shiny and it has no real value. So it's really not different from fiat currency, because, the value of the dollar is you can pay tax with the dollar, which is barely really a utility in the real economy. But I think, Ethereum has kind of proven, and this is why I kind of, I'm definitely an Ethereum fanboy and make your own investment decisions. But for me, the fact that Ethereum really does have true utility, you can collect interest, you can make interest on your money via the platform itself through staking on ETH2. You can use it to buy artworks, and even stuff like Gary V, where it's passes to his VeeFriends thing. You can you can make your own smart contracts to do lots of things. Like you can wrap bitcoins in it. You can do lots of other awesome things with those smart contracts. So to me, kind of Ethereum kind of created this idea that it's not a currency for the sake of just people's impression of value. It's also something you can do something with it, and the value comes from that true intrinsic value. So I'm personally a believer that Ethereum might be mostly extrinsic, or whatever the word is, value. Ethereum is definitely intrinsic value. When these Nifties, which of course are built on top of Ethereum, which is super awesome, it's like a self-perpetuating device at this point, but when the Nifties also add on their own utility component to the little piece of artwork you're holding, that's just super awesome to me. And so I do really like this project that they kind of are trying to push the animation concept. Like one of the things that I think these projects are really trying to wrestle with, but can't quite nail yet, is getting kind of beyond the avatar or offline usages. Like Gary Vee was definitely utility for sure, and that was the coolest thing about VeeFriends. But it's utility outside of the digital realm. And so I think everybody talks about digital natives and stuff, but I think pushing that digital native utility forward is really cool kind of goal for these projects. And that's where I think like apes is cool, because it is truly, you buy the ape and now you have some new digital thing you can do that's actually implemented. A lot of the projects, and even though it's very simple, it's just a little bathroom, and you get to do like a pixel every whatever minutes or whatever. It's a utility out of the box. I think that's kind of like, that's the next frontier of these nifty projects, is like, I don't just want the promise of utility. I've seen some that promise, like there was that crypto key thing where it was promising like, we're going to get you something special in every new project that comes. But like, what does that mean? Like, are you going to get me a hat in some game I'm never going to play? Or are you going to get me, I don't know, like, that's just a promise of utility. I want tangible utility that I can enjoy now. So stuff like even the Luchadors, how it has the animation makes it a little bit of a step ahead. I think the real frontier is getting stuff like the Bored Apes to the next level, where it's like, here's an actual immersive experience that I can do in the browser straight via my access via MetaMask or something like that.
Yeah, I think that, one of the things for these projects is there's two pieces for me that are excited from a utility standpoint. I think, VeeFriends hit the nail on the head with the access to VCon. What's interesting about the Bored Ape Yacht Club is, when you think about some of the merch that they're going to have high-end, hats, they're going to have high-end t-shirts and those types of things that are only going to be sold behind the MetaMask login. And so I think like that component's really cool. It's that exclusivity piece. But they also talked about some of the gamification features, where once you're behind the MetaMask, do you have access to, a DJ booth or private lo-fi music? Do you have access to some of the wild ideas they were having in Clubhouse are like, can you make a Donkey Kong Country clone? And your ape is now your access point, and your ape will look like the ape that you've purchased. Can you have a little mini 8-bit luchador wrestling game that's doing something behind that login? So a lot of those gamification components for me are what gets me pretty excited. One of the other big topics that we've been seeing today is around, and you were one of the early people to talk about this, probably before a lot of the others, is these counterfeit NFTs. And today Xcopy had to come out and explain to his or their audience on the private Discord that they had not released an NFT on Hen that was a blatant infringement. And we're starting to see a lot more of this in terms of, especially with some of one of the things that makes Hen cool is like, you have to go do that discovery. Your video yesterday was really awesome on a lot of that. But with that mystery comes opportunity for this lack of clarity and definition for collectors to get confused. And so, when I think about some of the challenges that are faced, your post was talking a lot about taking a look at the contract and making sure that there's some authenticity through OpenSea and others. What are some other ways that collectors can make sure before they pull that trigger that they can make sure that the NFT is real?
So Hen is a little bit, I mean, every marketplace is kind of going to have its own bespoke things to do. Hen is a little bit weird because their UI is so like stylized. So it's kind of almost stylized to the point of super simplicity. And I think probably I could see why some scammers would take advantage of that. But the easiest possible thing to do for anybody is you can always, I mean, these artists are so accessible, and me and you had kind of talked about this earlier today, but like you can just like go onto several Discord servers and ping the artist directly and see if he did a drop on some particular marketplace. I mean, you can just practically go ping Xcopy or Beeple or Pack or Trevor Jones or Mad Dog Jones. They're like very active on their various discords, and even like there's always Twitter too. I mean, you can ping them on Twitter, and a lot of them are really, really responsive. And almost like that's kind of one of the cool things about Nifties is like with Nifties, everybody is really concerned about being an important part of the community, and like kind of that support work aspect of making sure your fans don't get scammed is part of one of the pillars of being a member of the community. And so artists are definitely really concerned about whether there's piracy, and so they're almost always going to be really helpful. And even other collectors of a particular artist are going to not take kindly to scammers and be super helpful. So even if you like didn't get a hold of Beeple, you could go to Beeple's collectors forum, and there'd be probably 200 people who would immediately jump up and try to help you and make sure that the piece is validated. So that's really the obvious way that points out to me. The other pretty like easy way to validate, which is just slightly harder because it's kind of marketplace specific, is to figure out what the address is of the artist, the contract address or the wallet address is that the artist is minting stuff from normally, and then see if the piece you're going to buy is from that wallet address. So most of the time on a specific marketplace, Beeple stuff is going to come from a specific wallet. And so you can just double check that, and they'll usually identify the wallet as Beeple, although that can be forged, although they tried to prevent that as best they can. But that's kind of the best way, is make sure that the wallet that the original minted piece came from is definitely the wallet of the artist that you're trying to buy from. With stuff like Hen, where it's like, okay, well now we're talking about Tezos blockchain instead of Ethereum blockchain, then it starts to get tricky, because if Xcopy or whoever has never actually minted something on Hen, then there is no well-known wallet address to kind of refer back to. So I think that's where you can kind of get in trouble. I will say, like, if you're on some random marketplace that's on some random blockchain, not that Tezos is a random blockchain, because me and both of us are starting to kind of become somewhat fans of Tezos because of that utility aspect again. But if you're on some random marketplace on some random blockchain, you can be pretty sure that a blue chip artist is not going to do a drop on that blockchain without making some kind of splash elsewhere in the ecosystem, because it doesn't, they're not incentivized to do that, because they of course don't want to just dilute their body of work for no reason, because that would piss their collectors off, and also they're missing out on a lot of funding that they could use to fund future work. So it just doesn't really make sense for a larger artist to do a drop on some marketplace without making some kind of splash. So that's why, kind of going back to those social media tie-ins and confirming, yes, this guy did actually do a drop first, at least if it is the first marketplace. If you're going to OpenSea and it's an existing artist who's already done a bunch of drops, the wallet approach is definitely the best. Figure out what their normal wallet that they mint from is, and then make sure that whatever you're going to buy is from that specific wallet.
Yeah, sorry, I'm literally playing Snake. on 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 him as we're talking.
Were
So
you controlling that?
yeah, see, like up, left, down, and it wants me to go to full screen mode. That's why like the browser is also moving. But like when you think about utility in NFTs, like one of the things that Hin does really cool is like they've got a lot of the interactivity. And this isn't the first one I've played. There's like a low quality synthesizer, like a piano. If this wasn't 10, if there weren't 50 of them and it wasn't 10 Tezos to buy, I would probably definitely pick this one up. But like, yeah, like when you
Wow,
think
so
about
tokenized browser games, that is really sweet.
it is pretty awesome. And like
Yeah.
when you think about like the future, like this is like yeah, is this revolutionary? Or are these the next Flash games that that are
It does seem
eventually?
like they're the modern Flash game, like Flash game pages, but that's cool. I mean, you can go buy like an actual playable copy of the game that you like. I mean, it's got to start somewhere, and so it's going to start with someone making this implementation of Snake. That's pretty sweet. This is like yet again an example of why Tezos is kind of or Hen is kind of sweet, is because it's almost like a dumping ground of ideas, whether it's artwork or whether it's weird stuff like this. Like you don't really see this kind of um, thing going on with OpenSea, and so I think definitely Hen kind of warrants a look. Hey, I wanted to circle back to your earlier discussion um, while we have some time on the Duncan and Nifty Gateway chat. So one thing that like is very interesting about what you said was I've always wondered about the terms of service of Nifty Gateway and these scraping apps. And it is confusing because the scraping apps kind of provide a service that takes the load off of Nifty Gateway servers to no detriment of Nifty Gateway, only to their benefit. So in some ways, like having like an API or a third party implement an API is really good for them because it means people aren't going to be blasting their servers when they're trying to do a drop. So it's definitely something that I'm not surprised they're receptive to, but it's always been a little sketchy with their extreme clamp down on any kind of bot type activity, because obviously it's kind of like the nuclear bomb. The screen scraping can, open up some doors for botting that they might not want to open. But I think overall, I'm happy to hear that they're receptive to it, because their team is like 100% focused on doing drops that don't crash, and all of those user-friendly pieces of their UI has kind of been left by the wayside. It kind of reminds me of the game Elite Dangerous. I'm sure there's some people who've played it, but it's kind of an amazing but not super deep game. But the community of developers have implemented tools via their API on top of the game that actually make it fun is super amazing. And their genius was in just focusing purely on their core gameplay experience and leaving all of the pencil pushing stuff to the community to figure out. And it's super hard for a new person to go get into that game, which is kind of a detriment. And maybe that should be something Nifty Gateway should consider, is somehow making these tools a little bit more visible and well known. But it's super hard as a new person to Elite Dangerous, because you don't know any of these tools that you're supposed to be using to make the game playable. But on the other hand, if once you do figure out the tools, it makes the game a lot more fun. So with Nifty Gateway, I think it's the same situation. Really, all they really should be focused on is like, let's make drops work all the time. Let's make the secondary market usable and work all the time. And then let's make an API that will let our super excited and super motivated community do all of the analytics and data processing and offload that from our servers, because all it'll do is slow down the servers, because people will be trying to load up all this data to decide whether they want to buy something right while you're trying to do the drop. So if you have that all outsourced off your servers on other people's servers that you don't even care about how much they cost, then that's a super big win. So it's cool to hear that they might be embracing that even more going forward.
Yeah, I mean, they're encouraging their customers to DDoS them, nonstop and during drops, and so I think it's the right move. And when you think about, I hate to always bring it back to the Bored Ape Yacht Club, but they disclosed early how longer than it took to sell out, how long they thought it would take to kind of reach critical mass. It's a good analogy because I don't think Nifty Gateway, Duncan and team thought that if you were to say May 24th, 2021, they would have moved as many NFTs as they have. They probably assumed when they made those terms of service that there wouldn't be a need for scraping at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that part of it is reactionary to the demand of the market. And I think that the market matured much more quickly than they expected. Just the number of drops that they were doing was unprecedented. The amount of code that, one of the things that was really interesting is that the open edition for Nifty Gateway was based on a feature that POC wanted earlier on. And so they actually had to build some of those customization features out. So when you add that to kind of their very strict terms of service and just the way drops used to occur is, at a certain time, the first N number of people that buy it get it, and whoever clicks the quickest or has the best bot wins. And so I think that, now that they've really thought, it through, it does start making sense to take the API approach. So yeah, it's going to be interesting times. We'll keep an eye on it during the week. Mike, do you have anything else to add?
I think that's everything that I wanted to talk about today. I'm just really excited to see the market kind of recover and things to kind of go back to a little bit of normalcy and people kind of stop panicking. So I definitely think, well, I don't want to call a bottom or anything, but I definitely think the market has potential to already be turned around. So we'll see.
It adds a little bit of that mystery to say, did someone actually get liquidated, and were they wrong on some of the timing of that? It'll be interesting to see if there is something nefarious or this is just the invisible hand. And one of the things, I know there are a couple people that were interested to talk to someone from the bank social piece. We'll be doing an exclusive conversation with them either tomorrow or Wednesday to talk more about that coin that was launched over the weekend. So thanks everyone for listening in. It's not the same without Pio and Rob and John, but we want to make sure that we're giving y'all as much content as possible. So please, like, subscribe. Subscribing is the best thing you can do for us. We're still giving away an NFT when we reach 500 followers, and again when we reach 1,000 followers. Follow us on Twitter. Follow Crypto Pio. It's like a habit. I hear it. I have to say it. And Escape Velocity. I'm sure he'll be popping on in the near future too. So everyone, take care.